All right, everyone. We are officially live right on time. John, it's great to see you again. It's been a while. I've heard good things, and yeah, I miss you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. So everyone's here. Excellent. So everyone's on the same page here. We are here for Thursday at the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit, hosted by Treble Health, and my name is Ben Thompson. Today's schedule, we're kicking things off with John, and we'll discuss tinnitus, hearing loss, as well as John's journey. After that, we'll have Loretta talking about hyperacusis and tinnitus. We will also have Melinda on the subject of navigating stress with tinnitus. And then finally, I'll have a presentation on the gold standard tinnitus treatment and how to get started. So with that in mind, let's kick things off here at Treble Health at the Tinnitus Triumph Summit, right at the top of the hour, by introducing John, who has worked with Treble Health and has experienced improvements with his tinnitus. I met John, and John came to us hopeful, reaching out for help, and eventually we developed a close relationship. So John, what we'll focus on here is talking about, number one, the different tools that you used for relief. Number two, you'll answer some questions and give advice. And then number three, some words of encouragement. So let's first focus on your story. Tell us a bit about where you are today and what has been your journey with tinnitus, John.
Well, the journey began in January of 2021. I'm not positive what caused tinnitus. I think it was advanced age. In other words, just, hearing loss, stressful time as an attorney, and maybe previous exposure to COVID. Not sure, but it began in January of 2021, maybe the latter part of 2021, January of 2021. And I think I've always had a moderate version of tinnitus. Of course, I don't know what anybody else hears, but I don't think my tinnitus was outrageous, but it did turn my life upside down. For the first 90 days, I guess I did what everybody does. I went to my family doctor, nice guy who knew nothing about tinnitus, really. Sent me to an ENT, checked my ears, said your ears are fine, sent me to his audiologist, who said, yes, you have a hearing loss, you're 70 years old, that's to be expected, and you have tinnitus. They handed me a pamphlet, told me I had tinnitus, and said there really was not much they could offer. And so that was depressing, but it set me into searching, I guess like everybody does, on the internet. And I read a lot of which was, I think, baloney, but some of it good. Led me to Dr. Thompson, which sort of helped after, got me sort of squared away, gave me some basic good science-based background of what tinnitus was, recommended hearing aids, which I got. They were a huge help. Began to meditate, try to adjust my sleep, use sound therapy, somewhat in my office, but mainly at home at night. Used a headband for sleep, which I still use and love. Adjusted my diet some, began to emphasize exercise more, and slowly began to improve.
Talk to us about those tools that helped you during the first 90 days that you shared were the hardest for you. Did you find much during those 90 days that was helpful? And then what allowed you to turn the corner in your eyes?
Yeah, the first 90 days, I would say nothing really helped. I tried acupuncture a couple of times. That didn't help. I tried some massage therapy to relax. I really was not able to relax. I think I was in the fight or flight phase, and my nervous system would not settle down. It really wasn't until I got the hearing aids and the sound therapy through the hearing aids and got them programmed correctly with what I use, pink noise. That was a huge help. That was the number one thing. Everything else I think was complementary. I did your meditation challenge. I did that. That introduced me to meditation. I began reading a lot more about meditation generally. Conscious breathing helped. I did get a neurosensory buzz band, which I don't really know what it does, frankly, but it seems to help. And I stopped searching the internet. I have not stopped it completely. I would say I still follow the research of Dr. Susan Shore, and I'm aware of the linear device and that sort of thing, but I'm not obsessed with, researching tinnitus all the time. I tried to put it in the background, and I have to a great extent. I'm not cured. I still have tinnitus, but I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about 80% over it. I still experience it some. I've never had what I believe is a spike. I have waves a little bit or variations, but I've never had a really bad spike. I don't like that word. It's a scary word.
So, John, I want to focus on tools, our first section here. So you named some tools that were helpful. You named hearing aids and sound therapy being the most helpful. You named meditation and stress reduction. That was also helpful. You also mentioned having some buzzes through the bracelet. That was helpful. So talk to us about just number one, sound therapy. What did you experience when you tried it? And what would be your advice for others who haven't tried hearing aids with tinnitus programming inside of them, knowing that many people have a hearing test that shows a mild, high-pitched hearing loss? They're not really having that much trouble hearing, but they do have trouble with tinnitus. So I think you can talk to that quite well based on your case of what went on. Talk to us about getting the hearing test, reviewing the results, considering what to do, and then ultimately trying the sound therapy.
Well, I was not cognizant that I was having any hearing problems. So, and the hearing test revealed a mild high frequency hearing loss. I don't think I would have gotten hearing aids, but for the sound therapy component of it, it helped tremendously. The first audiologist that I consulted and who sold me the hearing aids, I don't think really understood how to program it for tinnitus. I had to go to a second audiologist who did completely understand how to do it, as yours do. And it just works. I mean, I think I was reluctant, as maybe some people do, from a vanity standpoint, because I felt like it signaled old age. But I've had absolutely no problem adapting to them. No one ever mentions it. I have no more problem wearing hearing aids than I do wearing my glasses. I wear them, I put them on in the morning when I get up. I wear them all day unless I'm in the shower. I wear them in the gym. And they are a tremendous help. Now, exactly how they work, I don't know. I think the sound is set slightly below the tinnitus level. I can still hear the tinnitus. It doesn't mask it or drown it out. But for some reason, it just settles it. And over time, I think also the intensity of the sound has gradually reduced some, not dramatically, but it has reduced some.
Hmm.
And the bothersomeness has clearly decreased.
Hmm. And that's what we want. That's what we want to see, those slow but steady ongoing changes. And John, I want to give you a shout out because you're here and there's 70 of us here who are watching this live on Zoom. And you're here to give back. You're here to share tips of really what worked and what helped. That's what the Tinnitus Triumph Summit is all about. And for those of you who are here live, you can start asking your questions in the Q&A section. John managed tinnitus with some hearing loss with different tools. I want to ask you, John, to explain your introduction to guided breathing and meditation and how that was a part of your tinnitus treatment and your ultimate relief of the sound.
Well, I had never meditated in my life. I didn't know anything about meditation. I was introduced to it by you in your Tinnitus 7-day challenge. I did that several times. And then I just began to research on the internet, different apps, the Calm app. There's a number of very good apps. And now I meditate every day. Not long, maybe 15, 20 minutes a day. I meditate usually before I go to bed at night. It helps settle me to sleep. The same thing with breathing. I knew nothing about anything about special breathing techniques, but now I do the 4-7-8 breathing, the box breathing. That settles my nervous system, I think, helps settle it. I would definitely recommend people try to educate themselves on breathing techniques. Through Treble Health, I was introduced to Peter, who, and I can never pronounce his last name, Vernizzi, I think, the psychologist in Arizona who has himself tinnitus. I think he advertises as the therapist with tinnitus, and he has classes that you can take about CBT and other techniques to help with anxiety aspects of tinnitus. That was helpful. I took his class. That and exercise, trying to be very religious with my exercise. I think just my overall physicality has improved. I lost 20 pounds, which I needed to lose, maybe 5, which has been helpful. So that's what I've done.
John, we have our first question coming here. I believe this is from Alicia. Alicia would like to know if your tinnitus is 80% gone or if you don't notice it 80% of the time. Talk to us about what real world benefit are you experiencing? Is it volume? Is it awareness? Or is it both?
It's both. I would say it's primarily awareness. I'm not aware of it about 80% of the time. There's some days that I might notice it more than others, but it's not a steady situation. It's not linear. It's up and down. There's some 1 step forward, 2 step backs in my journey, but it has definitely been a reduction in the awareness of it. And the volume, when I do hear it, is usually less. So I think primarily awareness, somewhat loss of volume.
Great.
But if I'm not hearing it, I don't care. If I'm not noticing it, I don't care what the volume is, frankly.
Great point. Great point. Second question is from Ignacio. Ignacio asks, is your tinnitus worse at home or while you're trying to fall asleep at night? Is it worse more during the day? Is it worse at night? And how do you manage sleeping?
I would say for me, my tinnitus is usually worse in the morning. For some reason, when I first wake up, I sometimes will notice it more. Sleeping, no. Like I say, I usually meditate for 15 or 20 minutes before I go to sleep. I have sound therapy by my bed. I play brown noise I put on a headband, and I don't have any trouble sleeping. I have at various times over the last couple of years used sleeping medication, but I don't really require it, I don't think. So it's basically just sound therapy by the bed and the headband in addition, and sleep no problem. I usually sleep a good 8 hour sleep. I will say that sleep for me, sleep and stress are the two things that seem to affect my tinnitus.
Tell us more about that.
Well, if I don't have a good night's sleep, then that will be a time the next day when my tinnitus may be bothering me a little more than normal. So I would encourage people to pay attention to their sleep hygiene and try to get as much good sleep as you can and minimize stress in your life. I used to joke that as a lawyer, I never had stress. I created stress. And now I do my very best to minimize stress. It's not possible to eliminate it, but through exercise and good diet and other things, I just try to minimize it to the extent I can. Seems to help.
Excellent. All right, let's talk about question here from CW. What dietary changes helped and which didn't make a difference in your personal experience?
I personally, from what I've read and researched, I don't think that the diet is a huge factor for tinnitus. I don't presume to give any medical advice, or I'm not Ben Thompson, but I think just a clean diet, just not a lot of sugar. I don't drink alcohol anyway. I've cut out things like caffeine, just trying to eat generally a more healthy diet and reduce sugar and things like that. I think it's helped some, but I don't know. I can't be sure. I don't know for sure.
And another question here from Barbara. The CBT that you spoke of and that kind of approach, did you have that in person? Did you have that over Zoom? And then what exactly did you benefit? What did you experience in terms of cognitive or behavioral therapy, CBT?
I did not. I've never had CBT or any counseling in person. The most I've had was the 8-week class that Peter Venisi has, that he offers. It's sort of an introductory class, and just learn, not to catastrophize, to try to think through things more rationally. So that's about it. I know Dr. Bruce Hubbard from New York is, I guess, the nation's leader in that realm, in that area. I think he does a very good job at people in CBT. I think Dr. Bruce Hubbard is a good resource. I've read some of the things he's written. Just basically learning not to catastrophize, not to figure that the worst is going to happen, and recognize you will get better.
When we speak about tinnitus and we give advice or recommendations, we must remember that everyone has a unique experience. There are certain things that will work for most, but sometimes not everyone. Additionally, someone may say, hey, this thing really worked for me, but it doesn't work for the most. So we have to acknowledge this is an individual process here. That said, John, you've shared a bit about the context of your tinnitus. It's at least somewhat related to hearing loss, age-related hearing loss, but there's more elements here to it. You've had success managing tinnitus, reducing the awareness over time. What would be your advice to others who are currently in a place of bothersome tinnitus in those early stages? And then just general advice you'd have here for everyone that is live who wants to learn from your journey, so perhaps they don't make the same mistakes, or so that they can learn from what worked for you?
Well, I think the overarching piece of advice would be to get a good, solid professional advice that do not buy into the "you will not improve. There's nothing that can be done. This is a lifetime sentence." You can improve. You will improve. I think habituation is real, and so. And I'm not a marketing director for Treble Health, but Dr. Kennedy is excellent. Dr. Thompson is excellent. I would get good, solid advice from them. I would get your hearing tested. I would seriously consider hearing aids. I would consider sound therapy. I don't think silence is our friend. At least it wasn't for me. I think having good background noise to distract yourself from the tinnitus initially is helpful. Emphasize your sleep. Make sure your sleep is good. Try to reduce your stress. Learn about meditation, and breathing techniques will help. And then be patient. I had good improvement in the first 3 to 6 months. Since then, it's been steady, gradual improvement over the last couple of years. I think I am still improving somewhat. So I think be patient, be optimistic, and you'll get there or get close to there. And you don't have to get 100% there, I think, to declare victory. I think getting most of the way there is enough, at least in my view.
Yeah. So tell us about today. What would you mark up as a good day with your tinnitus? And then go back to the first 6 months. What would you have considered to be a bad day for your tinnitus?
Well, in the first 6 months, it was on my mind constantly. I was constantly thinking about it, researching it, reading about it, talking about it, talking to my staff, people in my life about it, worrying about it. Now I'm certainly aware of it, but it is far less prominent in my life than it was then. I just, for most of the day, I'm not even aware I have it. There are times, certainly there are times when and during the day when I will notice it. If I'm hungry or if I'm stressed, if I haven't slept well, it may be a little bit more of a problem. But as I say, 80% of my time, I don't notice it. So it's a non-issue for me about 80% of my day. So that's where I am now.
I want to bring up a point here because many individuals are looking for the maximum treatment possible. And I would say that you've found it for your relative tinnitus. I would say, from my knowledge, from where you're at, from where you started, you're doing quite well. And you're in that range of near the maximum benefit as you're still working on things. And I think what you're describing here of your current state is helpful to set a realistic expectation for some individuals, because of course, everyone wants the sound to go to zero and to not think about it and to not have trouble with it. However, often we have to play within these margins of, well, how much better can we get the tinnitus, and can I be satisfied with this outcome? So I hope this is helpful for some people, because sometimes people ask, if I have these kinds of symptoms, is it possible to get better, or will I always have this tinnitus? And you're saying, I have some tinnitus still, and I'm a lot better. So it's not this binary choice of, do I have tinnitus and I'm suffering, or do I not have tinnitus and I'm happy and feeling better? It's all a process of margins and in the gray area. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I don't think it's an all or nothing situation. Would I prefer to go back, to before I had tinnitus and never had any of this out? Of course. But I'm content with the progress I've made, and I think it's been great progress. And I believe that there will continue to be some increased improvement. I think habituation is the cure right now until the magic pill comes, if it ever comes. But I mean, even if it came out now, I'm not sure I would get the pill, because I'm not sure I need it. I think I can deal well with where I am right now. And so I'm not looking for 100% in order to declare victory. I think I'm pretty much there, and I'm happy with where I am. So
thank you so much, John. You've shared the tools you've used: sound therapy, meditation, getting professional help, hearing aids, other complementary aspects, diet, nutrition, bimodal a bit. You've talked about advice you have for everyone who's here live, especially those who have a similar story and case as yours. And then you shared some really optimistic encouragement. And that is exactly why we're here on the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. Any last words here before we sign off?
No, I just wish everyone the best. I think you'll get there. Just be patient, get good advice. There are, 5, 6, 7 tools out there that I think we can all use. I don't expose myself to really loud concerts or things like that. I'm not going to put my head up against a speaker at an AC/DC concert or something. But other than that, I'm leading my life, and I think if you're at the beginning of the journey, you will get there. Just be patient and be persistent. Do the things that Dr. Thompson and his audiologist will teach you, and I think you'll get there.
Excellent. Well, let's give a round of applause and a big thank you to John for volunteering his evening here to help us. Thank you so much, John. We have Janet in the chat and others saying thank you and giving, just giving a big sense of gratitude. So thank you, John, and good to speak with you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good to see you again. Thanks. See you guys.
You're welcome. Bye. All right, great. So up next in just a few minutes, we will have Loretta. So Loretta, just hang tight for now, and then I'll tell you when to turn your video on. Let's just review here the schedule for today at the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. We just had John talk about tinnitus and hearing loss, and now we'll have Loretta, who I worked with for a decent amount of time, and I got to know Loretta very well. So I'm really excited to bring Loretta on for the next session. After that, we will have Melinda talking about navigating stress with tinnitus. And Loretta here will talk about her tinnitus journey, as well as managing sound sensitivity and hyperacusis. So get your questions ready for Loretta. Finally, at 7:30 Eastern, which is 4:30 Pacific, I will present on gold standard tinnitus treatment and get started. The Tinnitus Triumph Summit is supported and hosted by Treble Health. I'm the founder of Treble Health, and I created this online telehealth practice to help individuals like you. So we want to share a bit about, just for a few minutes, about what we offer at Treble Health here as the sponsor of the event. The main offer that we have, how we help patients, how we help individuals who are working with us, is called the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. And you can see here some images on the screen of how it looks and what's contained inside of the bundle. For tinnitus treatment, for getting help with tinnitus, what we've learned as a team of professionals is that it's a combination of sound therapy plus expert care. So any comprehensive treatment needs to address those two aspects. Everyone who's featured in the summit here over these 2 days has used elements of this, if not gotten this exact bundle in entirety. So we're offering a discount tonight because we want as many people as possible to get the results that these graduates had, that these success stories these patients have who are sharing. We found that one of the biggest obstacles is getting people and getting individuals to believe that there's anything that can work for tinnitus. Well, we've heard these positive stories here so far in the summit. Our program at Treble Health works, and we hope that you can get similar results. So this is the most comprehensive plan anywhere, and it is available via telehealth, accessible for you. We have our incredible audiologists who are hands down some of the best tinnitus care providers in the country. And the tinnitus relief bundle here, there are different options, and the main plan is the low monthly plan, which has a 45-day money back guarantee. So that is a risk-free trial that has a high success rate. And at Treble Health, we have over 500 5-star reviews. We've helped thousands of people, and we want the next one to potentially be you. So with that in mind, let's bring on Loretta to talk about her journey. Loretta, you can turn on your video and you can turn on your audio as well.
It says that I can't.
Well, let's fix that. There we go. All right. Amazing. Good to see you. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Loretta. Loretta is going to share a bit about her journey. I'm going to ask some questions. So if you have questions about sound sensitivity, tinnitus, having hyperacusis, having both of these together, please start asking them in the chat. Loretta will be answering these questions for you based on her journey. Just to set some context here, Loretta, tell us a bit about what kind of conditions you faced and ultimately if it was successful.
I started with really mild tinnitus about 9 years ago. And I went to the doctor. Doctor said there was nothing they could do. But at that point, my tinnitus was not at a point where I needed anything, and I was able to habituate pretty easily. And then after the second booster of the COVID vaccine, about 2 weeks later, it started and really, really loud. It was horrible. It was very loud. And I couldn't cope with it anymore. So of course I went back to the doctor, said the same thing. I was okay with it as far as what the doctor had said I had to do it. So I was going to try, but it got to the point where I couldn't control it. I wasn't able to get any relief. I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to eat. And then about 2 months after that, I added hyperacusis and anxiety to it. And that just took me completely over the top. At that point, I had started talking with Dr. Ben Thompson, and he was my angel. I used to call him constantly for any little reason. And all he would tell me was, it'll get better, just breathe. I learned from him about sound, using sound, ears, sound. There's little sound machines. Used them all over the house. I still use them sometimes. My hyperacusis took a very long time to go away, but it did. I would say my hyperacusis is probably about 95% gone. Every once in a while, I do get it. My triggers at the time when I first started getting them was anything. It was air conditioner, it was the car, it was even bacon sizzling. Toys, kids playing with the toys, the utensils, everything, anything. So I used to try to stay away from it. And when I started working with Treble, they told me to try to go ahead and go into some of these places that scared me, or do some of the things that scared me, because holding back from them wouldn't allow me to habituate, or not habituate because it actually went away, but wouldn't allow it to go away. I tried acupuncture, I tried hypnotist, I tried CBT. Oh my goodness, I tried everything at first. And then after talking to Dr. Thompson, I was able to get into meditation, eating better, clean. I was eating clean. Exercise. Oh, I couldn't, in the beginning, I couldn't exercise. I couldn't even eat because it would change the sound of my tinnitus. I had, I would say, 3 to 4 sounds a day in my ears, and I had no bass. It was no bass sound. It was always different, changing. And depending on what I was doing, it would change and it would get louder and louder. And I was always afraid that if I continued to do my exercising or eating, that loud sound would be my bass. So in the beginning, I kind of stopped eating. I would eat maybe a piece of toast a day and no exercise. I didn't do any exercise. I just completely stopped, and I lost over 30 pounds in a matter of maybe 3 months. My hyperacusis finally, my anxiety is what stopped me also. So once I got my anxiety in control, once I got control of my anxiety, I could start even better with all the tools that Dr. Thompson gave me to get rid of, or almost get rid of, my hyperacusis. So it took a long time, and it took a lot of struggling on my part. But the sound, especially the sound options, the sound, what is that called? Sound.
Wow. You've really improved your condition. If you can't remember the term sound therapy. So
sound therapy.
we met about 2 years ago.
Yes.
And we worked together for about 1 year. And then in the past year, you've had this resolved hyperacusis, and you've shared your story a bit on our YouTube channel. So we have some questions coming in, and Loretta, let's get to these questions. So the first question here is, how long did it take for you to get a handle on, I want to set the scene here. Hyperacusis, for people who might not know, is when normal everyday sounds are hypersensitive, they're too loud. And it often causes people to wear earplugs or protect their hearing around these sounds because they're triggering. Just like someone who is going through a migraine is very sensitive to light. Someone who's going through sound sensitivity or hyperacusis can also be very sensitive to sound. And about a third of people who experience tinnitus also experience degrees of hyperacusis. For you, Loretta, you can comment on that aspect. But let's first talk about this question from Mary. Thanks for the question, Mary. How long did it take to get a handle on your hyperacusis?
Yeah, it was probably about, I'd say maybe 14 months. It took a while, but I was holding myself back with anxiety. If I didn't have that, I'm sure.
Essentially 95% better, right?
Yes.
Talk to us about, when did it become manageable, and then when did it become a lot better? What were the timeline thresholds? 3 months, 6 months, 12 months?
I would say maybe 6 to 7 months down the line, it got better. Before that, it was just a little bit better, but I could see myself improving about maybe 6 to 7 months, something like that. And after that, little by little, I could listen and hear the different sounds that were horribly loud, and it just started going. I just continued to go to the restaurants. I started going to the park. I started going anywhere the one thing that I really had a hard time going to was stores. But I just continued to go, and it just got better and better until I managed it. It was almost complete. It's almost completely gone. Every once in a while, I get a little bit of a bout of it, but it doesn't last more than maybe half an hour or something. It just kind of, I think it's just telling me, okay, I can come back. But
I remember we worked through a lot of that, because what we found is that the hyperacusis here was partly physiological, meaning, yes, it was intense. And sometimes our own choices or our own behaviors made it worse. Meaning, if you didn't go to the store and if you didn't play any sounds around your house, then it would kind of make it worse. And we use sound therapy as the main form of treatment for hyperacusis, which was very effective. So if anyone here has some sound sensitivity and tinnitus, the research here promotes the use of sound therapy, constant sounds. That's why you got the sound machines, etc. What would you say? This is another question from Mary. Mary asks, what helped the most with your hyperacusis? Let's say in the first 6 months.
Sound therapy, constant sound. Everywhere I went, I had the maskers that I would wear. I also have a Baha, which is bone anchored hearing device, and I used to use that as a sound therapy also, because it would generate, I don't know how to explain it, but I could hear anything from the left side, I'm sorry. I could hear actually all around. So I could play music and I could hear it in my head. So I use that, but I think the sound therapy actually was it. I mean, I did that religiously. I always had it everywhere.
Yeah. You had the maskers, the devices in the ears. Those
Yes.
are sometimes called ear level sound generators, but really they're playing sound therapy at your ear level. And then you also had some sound machines around the house that were complementing it. We have a question from Tim. Tim asks, Loretta, when you were having hyperacusis and maybe some tinnitus, did you also experience any physical sensations like fluttering or any kind of physical sensations in your ears?
Fluttering. I had a little bit of fluttering. I had a lot of crickets, but not for an extended period of time at all. Every once in a while I would get it, but it went away really.
Okay. Another question from Mary. Do you have hyperacusis in both ears or is it just one?
You know, I can't really hear out of my left ear, so I'm not sure if I have it in both ears. It sounds like, or it felt like I had it in both ears, but I can't say for sure. I know that I had it in my right ear, but the left ear, I'm not sure.
Okay. And let's have another question here from Ruth. Ruth asks, Loretta, I'm dealing with hyperacusis. Is it okay to expose myself to everyday sounds? I feel like I'm hurting my hearing. I've been wearing earplugs when I know I'll be around noise, grocery stores, traffic. Is that necessary? I guess I'm asking if it's causing damage to my ears when I feel like it's too loud.
I think little by little, you'll have to go back to doing the things that you were doing before. You can't rush into it like go tomorrow to the store or whatever. You have to give yourself just a little bit at a time. That's what I did anyway. There's this sound, it's called sound print. Do you know what that is, Dr. Thompson?
I think it's an app where you can go and learn or record what the loudness level is of certain places in certain stores.
Right, you can, and actually it's like right now, if you go into a store and you have that sound print on, it'll tell you what the degree of noise is in there. And it'll tell you if it's too loud for you to be in there. And at that point, if it is too loud, then you put in your earplugs. But if it's not, you just go on and
That's a really good point. And it's definitely what I coached you on. So you're passing the test here a year later. It was how, this is a great question from Ruth, because I know you experienced this, Loretta, which is the body's telling this sign, the brain is telling us the sign that those sounds are not safe, not comfortable, and it feels like it hurts, right? It's too much. But that's not causing hearing loss. If you hear that sound, it's intense, but it's not causing damage to your hearing system in the same way that someone with a migraine who can't look at a bright light, it wouldn't blind them.
no.
to look at a bright light. And we had to work through that. And strategically, you would use earplugs, and then you would test it out, and you would say, okay, I'm going to have some noise around, and I'm going to monitor it to see if I have a reaction, have a fluctuation, or if it's okay. So you had some of that trial and error experimentation, right? How did that go?
Yes. It went well. I mean, it worked. I mean, you have to just try it. I mean, there's no other way really to say except that you have to try it. Just whatever you can take. But there is things like if you hear a motorcycles getting closer, or you hear the sirens, or sometimes the gardening equipment. Now those things, they automatically, you're going to have a problem with those. So before you go outside, if you know somebody's mowing their lawn or whatever, you put your earplugs in, and after you walk or whatever you're doing, you pass that point, then you can take them out. Or if you see a siren, or if you if you hear a siren or a motorcycle coming or whatever, that at that point you put them in as fast as you can, I guess is what it, or plug your ears just for that moment that it's coming.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from Mary, and this is a good question because I wanted to ask you it too. What earplugs did you use? And for those who are wondering, there's a range of earplugs. There's some cheap foam earplugs. Probably most people have used those before. Then there's reusable rubber silicone earplugs. Sometimes those have different filter strengths in them. And then there's more custom earplugs, which you would get a custom mold made of your ear. So which earplugs did you use, Loretta, and which ones were the most helpful?
The foam ones actually were really good if I really didn't want the noise to get in. They seem to stop most of the noise most of the time. The other ones I used, they were different. I had like 3 different variations from Sound Oasis. And like I said, there's 3 different variations depending on how much sound you don't want to hear or how much sound you want to hear, so.
Are these the custom, are these the reusable earplugs that I asked you to order? Okay.
Yeah.
That's from a company called Earpiece.
Earpiece.
Sound
Oasis.
Sound Oasis makes the sound machines.
Okay. Earpiece, right. That's it. And they have a lot of different ones that you can choose from. And they're comfortable to use. They're not hard to put on or anything. It's just the degree of
So I'm mentioning their name in the chat for those who are here live. It's called Earpiece. And that is a company where you can buy these different filter strengths of earplugs. I recommend it to a lot of my patients who have hyperacusis because you don't need the same strength of earplug for all situations. And most people don't think about that. But once you have hyperacusis and we learn that it's a natural progression of you can use earplugs strategically, but eventually you won't need to, and you shouldn't. You don't want to overprotect your hearing. So it's basically a game of always being on the edge of your comfort zone, because eventually your comfort zone will be, my ears are open and I'm in the grocery store. We had another question here from Mary, which is, now today, can you go to a restaurant with your grandkids? Can you go shopping? Does it trigger your hyperacusis?
You know what? At this point, I'm actually a passenger on a motorcycle. So I do use just the earplugs and I'm fine. I have no problems being on the motorcycle with the noise right directly with me. It's probably, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I do that. So
that's definitely safe. And if you had told me that when we first met, if I had told you that was possible when we first met, there's no way you would have believed me.
No way. Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. We wanted to know if restaurants and shopping and grocery stores were okay. And you're saying, actually, I have a confession. Riding a motorcycle.
So everything's fine. I have everything now. I have everything. I can listen to everything. Though there's one thing that's kind of stood with me, not because it's giving me hyperacusis, but I had gotten used to being a little more, it being an area, like when I go to my son's house, the kids play games on their machines and whatever. But I brought this over from that is the quietness. Sometimes I still want them to be, don't put the three of them on at the same time or whatever. But it's just like, I think it's just a carryover of when I did have hyperacusis and I didn't want the noise.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't bother me where I get anxious or anything. It's just a carryover, kind of silly, but that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few people in the chat here speaking about how with their hyperacusis or with their symptoms, they have experienced some fluttering, and we would want to talk to you individually to learn more about that. But often that's something called tensor tympani, and there's something called tensor tympani syndrome. It can happen alongside hyperacusis. It can also happen alongside tinnitus. And it can provide some physical feelings or sensations and fluttering at times that can be just in one ear, sometimes in both ears. So knowing that when treatment is completed with tinnitus or with hyperacusis, that often improves and doesn't happen again. So for those who were wondering what is going on with my ears, that's what's going on. Most likely could be something else, and we want to talk to you individually to understand that. There's also an interest with some of these earplugs. In just about 5 minutes, we'll be able to, I want to share a special update about how to get those earplugs as part of our bundle. So Loretta, as we're wrapping up here, you've answered some great questions. We've really touched on why someone with hyperacusis and tinnitus should be hopeful. We've touched on the tools you've used, sound therapy. We've touched on your ability to be around loud noises and have it not set you back at all as you're being around, motorcycle sounds, grocery store. Of course, we still want you to protect your hearing around very loud sounds, but normal to normal loud sounds are okay. We had one question come in from Mary, I believe. Do you still need sound therapy? And tell us about that process of when did you stop using sound therapy, and what was the correlating improvement with your hyperacusis?
Sound therapy was one of the main things that helped me with my hyperacusis and with the tinnitus, actually. But I still kind of use it. I have it. In fact, I have it on right now. But my tinnitus is really, I mean, I know it's there. Sometimes it's lower and sometimes it's a little bit louder. But at night, I don't need sound therapy. I don't need the noise makers or anything like that. I don't know. I think that's on an individual basis as far as how long you need it or whatever. But in the beginning, up until the hyperacusis wasn't too much of a problem anymore, I didn't need it as much. My tinnitus, I think, was it was only delayed being habituated because of the hyperacusis. And I think, that it's sound therapy is I've gotten to where I like the noise, but it's not because I need it anymore. It's just because I like the waves, or I like the sometimes it's the brown noise I listen to too. So
Got it. Well, I'm so happy that you're doing well, and it's of course what we want. And the beauty about sharing your story here is that you're not here saying, "Hey, I'm having a good day with hyperacusis. This treatment works." You're here to say, the last year of my life has been essentially no or little effect from hyperacusis, and from the first months that we worked together, that is really a dramatic improvement. So congratulations, and thank you for sharing your story. Do you have any last advice here in the last few minutes for someone who may be going through something similar? Just last advice or words of encouragement?
just do the sound therapy, do whatever they tell you to do. Make sure that you do it religiously, do it all the time. Don't look online to find out answers because they're not there. Be patient. It'll get there. Don't give up. Don't give up. That's my thing is don't give up. It'll happen.
Thank you so much, Loretta.
You're welcome.
Let's all give you a nice warm applause and throw some
Thank you.
hearts on the screen here live on Zoom. Thank you for sharing your time and your experience. Lots of praise here coming, and Mary especially comments saying this was so helpful. Thank you. And that's why we do what we do, because we want to make this process easier for others, with the motivation, with the perspective, with the proper expectations, with hope. And then from our perspective, also with the tools and with an option to, start with our program. So thanks so much, Loretta.
Oh, you're welcome.
Talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. We wanted to have a special update here. So because the theme for the last 30 minutes was managing hyperacusis and sound sensitivity, we do offer the bundle here, which is primarily for tinnitus. However, the treatment for hyperacusis often uses the same things. So sound therapy is so crucial for tinnitus as well as hyperacusis. And as Treble Health is the sponsor of the Tinnitus Triumph Summit, I just want to take a few minutes here to explain more about the bundle. And due to this theme of hyperacusis from Loretta's inspiring story, we're throwing in a pair of multi-filtered earplugs that are reusable, the same ones that Loretta had used, that I had recommended to her. We're throwing those in as an extra bonus for anyone who wants to sign up for the Tinnitus Relief Bundle here. Just mention that you're signing up and you want the extra earplugs, and we're going to throw those in for you. That's about a $50 value and very helpful for those who have hyperacusis as well. So in addition to, as you can see on the screen here, the sound therapy devices that go up and on the ears, those are crucial for tinnitus treatment with ear level sound therapy. And also those are used for hyperacusis treatment as well with the sound therapy. In addition to these devices, which are Bluetooth enabled, rechargeable, just the leading sound therapy devices on the market, we also have the sound machine. Loretta had spoken about that she used multiple of these around her house, and even still benefits from them today. Also included is the Tinnitus Sleep headband, which you see on the screen right here. In addition to all of these sound therapy devices, we also include 5 appointments with an audiology expert on our team. And if you are having trouble with mainly tinnitus, then we'll be able to connect you with someone who is focused and an expert on tinnitus. If you're having also trouble with hyperacusis or sound sensitivity, then we can pair you with one of our leading experts who specializes in hyperacusis and sound sensitivity. So again, this is the Tinnitus Relief Bundle, which we have this special add-on for those who want the earplugs included in the bundle. Just go to treblehealth.com/offer and you can sign up. The details of which are that this program here, this bundle, is $212 per month for 13 months. That's 0% interest, low monthly payments, and there is a 45-day risk-free trial. Everyone here who's shared their story has worked with our team at Treble Health, and this is our main offer, our Tinnitus Relief Bundle, that is the best of what we have, the most comprehensive plan that you can find with incredible providers. And we found that, again, one of the biggest obstacles here, whether it's for tinnitus or hyperacusis, is to share that there's anything that can work, is to share that there's anything that you can do. Because unfortunately, many of us may have heard there's nothing you can do, or another doctor didn't recommend an option. That's the benefit of working with a specialty clinic. And fortunately, via telehealth, we're able to work with you conveniently in that way. So our program works, and we want to get you the same results. Definitely sign up if you'd like to start. Again, treblehealth.com/offer. We have a special deal that $212 per month is the special discount for the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. And you've learned about the extra add-on with the earplugs. All right. Now that we've gone through that, we get to introduce Melinda. And Melinda is a patient who had worked with us, gone through some challenging times, and is now going to share her story about navigating stress with tinnitus. So Melinda, I welcome you to the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit. And how we always introduce each of our speakers here is to remind us that we'll talk first about the tools that you use, second about advice you have, and that'll be live question and answer. And then third, your encouragement, your hope for others. So let's start, Melinda, by please give us a summary of where you are today and where you were when you needed help from our team.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So I am at a 2 out of 10 now. I started at a 9 out of 10. I'm 7 months, about 6.5 to 7 months into tinnitus retraining therapy with the maskers. Do you want more than that, Ben? I'm sorry. That's kind of the quick summary, but.
Yeah, give us more details of what were the challenges that came up for you, some context of why this started and what you were going through in those first few months.
Yeah, so I had I don't know how I got it. I had a surgery unrelated to my brain or ears. And so 2 days after that, all of a sudden I was sitting in my living room and I thought there was something wrong with my house. And I was looking around. And then when it dawned on me that it was ear ringing, I started to panic. I had it in both ears. Like I said, I don't know what the reason was, if it was vaccinations or what happened, but it didn't matter at that point because I went into a panic. My husband and children didn't know what was happening. I actually went to the ER twice. I even thought I was having a stroke, and they're like, no, you would not be speaking. But it caught me off guard. The first 2 months were absolutely miserable. And so my goal was always to help others not have those 2 months of misery. I lost 20 pounds. I couldn't eat. I did eat some, but I had a really hard time eating. I was almost paralyzed to my bedroom, where I felt like I couldn't even move out of my bedroom. I was in panic. I had a hard time even walking around the block. I went on a 6-week wait list for an ENT. That wasn't helpful. He just said strange things happened and sent me away. Didn't do an MRI. He said, I don't think it's going to help you to do an MRI. So that was unhelpful. And I just really spiraling. I had a hard time working, taking care of my kids. I had a hard time driving my car because I could not even focus to drive my vehicle. And so I was really in a dark place. I didn't think there was a future to my life, to be honest.
And we're bringing here into the conversation Dr. Tracy Peck Holcomb, audiologist with Treble Health. Tracy's going to comment here about her perspective of working with Melinda, working one-on-one over multiple sessions, seeing her progress over time. So I want to let you two guide the rest of this conversation here for the next 5 minutes. How did you improve, Melinda, and what kind of tools did you use along the way?
Yeah, I agree with others that I did a little bit of random Google searching, and that was a very bad idea because I only heard negative stories, and I got more afraid. And the part I left out is I was required to go on a work trip. I got to the airport and I was in the gate, had an absolute panic attack. I was having rolling panic attacks. I forgot to mention that. I could not get on the plane. So then it got even worse. And I found Treble Health finally, made a phone call, and I thought, I don't think this is real. But within, someone answered right away, and I got in with Tracy, I think that afternoon. She had an extra 15 minutes and it turned right then. I'll be honest. It was the first time someone had given me hope. The first person that was positive and said, hey, I know you're suffering, because everybody else is kind of like, it's no big deal. Get used to it. You're overreacting. Right. And I'm like, no, something's really wrong here. So that's kind of how it started. And then Dr. Tracy and I worked together weekly. She's absolutely amazing. Saved my life. And just corrected me in a professional way on to change the way I was thinking about the situation. So I can let Dr. Tracy speak now, but I can't tell you, I wish I would have found it earlier, because 2 months of this was too long. 2 months untreated was way too long. So.
Hi, Melinda.
Right?
Sorry for jumping on late. I was finishing actually with a patient. So yeah, I mean, I think when we first started, it was that initial session was really about just, which I say a lot of times in those initial sessions, just like if you're leaving with anything from this call today, I want you to leave with there are things you can do. There is hope. This can get better, you know? And I think just even planting that seed when patients have been told by many other professionals, there's nothing you can do. You just have to learn to live with it. You know, all of that narrative, which is super dismissive and not helpful when someone is in that state, right? That elevated state of just like complete overwhelm with it. And then from there, yeah, we saw each other weekly, and it was just building. It was building upon each week, you know, little bits at a time. And we fit her with her ear level devices, got that going. And Melinda, what was your experience with that initial sort of getting those on and starting to use those and stuff, especially compared to, because you had tried other devices before, and kind of what the differences were maybe with that, if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a unique part of my story because I had found maskers online but didn't have, I went into an audiologist and I kind of begged him to order these for me, and he had never used them before for that, just a local audiologist. And so I had only one right ear device, and it was white noise, which now, because it didn't work for me. Some people, maybe it does, but it was not working for me. And so when I started working with Dr. Tracy, I got both ears. And so people know my story. My left ear stopped. Like, I hope that happens to everybody, but my left ear stopped, and then my right ear stayed really intense, but it would move around my brain, especially in the first few weeks. And then that stopped happening. It's actually not even in my ear anymore. It's somewhere in my brain, which is, I can't think about it too much. I'll get a little disturbed or caught up with it. So really unique, but I felt like, nothing against the audiologist, but Tracy's an expert in this, and I trusted her, and I felt like I'm going to follow what she says. So I tried to wear them 24 hours a day. And we can get into the mornings. And so there's certain things I struggled with that she helped me with, but I was very diligent. I had a different sound during the day than at night. But we had to tweak it to pink noise, and you were able to adjust it. And then I stopped being so hypersensitive to it. But the first one I had didn't work at all. And it just, the person didn't know how to help me. And it was kind of frustrating because I spent $3,000 on just the one device. So.
And I think that the reason I wanted to have you just talk about that a little bit is because I think, again, this term sound therapy is thrown around a lot, and you know, just throwing on a random sound for one person, it really is customized. It really is individualized to each person, what the sort of context is around their tinnitus. And even if you only perceive tinnitus in one ear, really, the best practices would be to wear two, because the auditory system is a binaural system. So we know that there's multiple pathways that are involved. We know that if we're stimulating both sides, that maximizes that benefit in the auditory part of the brain to stimulate across the entire part of the system. So, and then tweaking the protocol and the types of sounds and the volume, like we made several adjustments over several months as her tinnitus started to change and get better and get lower. And as the months go on, you have to sort of adjust to the changes, right? And as things are improving. And so that piece, I think, isn't as well understood. So that's a really important piece. And how many times did we connect and be like, all right, I think I can drop it down a little bit more, or the sound has changed. Like, what does that mean? And changing up the sound itself that you use and adding additional sounds. Like it's an ongoing adaptive process for sound therapy, right?
Yeah, and it was so fun because, I don't want to say fun. The first part was really grueling. I mean, this is a gritty process. I'm not going to tell you it's not gritty. It's gritty. You gotta dig deep. But so whenever we would lower it, it was like, you know, that's a marathon, not a sprint, but it was like you passed mile 2, right? And then we get so excited. And then I told Dr. Ben the other day, I didn't even know if I had the app on my phone anymore. Like, your brain is amazing, right? And so, but yeah, we lowered it 3 times. I'm on the lowest level again now.
Yeah.
But at first, though, you were very patient with me because I moved the pink noise around a lot. And then we finally got to a spot. But so thank you for that. But it was a very quick adjustment.
Yeah. And then I think Yeah. And then I think once we sort of got into that, once you got into the routine and you're super consistent, which is the other big key factor, and using the sound therapy, every day, nighttime sound therapy and things like that, then I think we moved on to a lot more of the cognitive behavioral therapy focused kind of techniques and how to deal with the day-to-day, stress and anxiety of it. And do you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe what strategies helped you and what worked as far as that area that's equally important, I think, to the sound therapy itself?
Yeah, it is. And I'll admit I'm very, very type A. Very black and white. And so I was probably a tough patient, but I had it set in my head that it was incurable. Well, guess what? There's lots of things in our life that are incurable, but we live great lives, mental health, eyesight, all kinds of addiction, right? We live great lives, even if, so you helped me with the ultimatums I was giving myself and the timeframes I was holding myself to. In the mornings when I woke up, I would get because sometimes my maskers would run out of battery, right? So I would get very depressed the first few months in the morning. I'd wake up and I'd be like, I can't do this another day. I possibly can't. So you helped me say, hey, it's okay. Get either charge them a different time or get a different sound therapy going. And I got up and went right to the gym. And that was okay to say, hey, I'm not going to listen to this right now. I'm going to do something else, because I had to give myself permission that I didn't need to check in on it, but I was hyper checking in and where was it at in my brain? And so I really had to back off. And I was absolutely dead set on I was going to get back to silence. And that's not reality. You do have silence because you're not thinking about it. Right? It's how we think about the terminology. How I thought about the terminology was really big. And then just the flying for work. You told me it's going to be fine. It's probably worse anticipatory. It was totally fine to fly. It was actually better, but I had to trust you and I had to believe you, because I wasn't going to have another panic attack at the airport.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I've flown 5 or 6 times since then. No issue.
Yeah. And I think, but we worked, it was like, that was a goal, right? So it's constantly the needle, the goal line is always moving. So as patients are progressing through these stages of habituation, the not only does the tinnitus change, but also what changes is the goals that you're setting, right? So like as we were working together over the course of those months, it was like, okay, this has definitely improved and I'm still struggling with this, or I definitely feel like this has gotten better, but I have this work trip coming up and here are my concerns about that. And working through those using some of the CBT tools, really working on neutral thinking, neutral frame of thought. You mentioned kind of the mornings being a challenging time. And so, coming up with strategies around that, right? Not just sitting in bed ruminating about it, like, let's get up and do something and engage in an activity that's positive and helpful, honestly, for stress reduction too. And so it's constantly kind of adapting and like working together. It really is a collaborative process. I think it's a lot of back and forth, and certainly as a provider, we're giving a lot of guidance and coaching and support, but honestly, Melinda did the bulk of the work, like as all patients do. And because she was consistent with that and really like with her type A personality, put in all the time and was super consistent with it, like she's getting those results. And it wasn't overnight. It's taken probably longer than she wanted to, but has made significant, incredible progress. So I'm super happy to have her sharing her story tonight. And
Melinda, talk to us about your daily habits when you were, and possibly you still are, in this mindset of, all right, today's a new day. I need to do things. I need to set up certain things to help me with my tinnitus treatment. So what were your daily habits that made the difference here for you?
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, I have the Sound Oasis machine because it doesn't mess with Bluetooth, right? Or your connectivity in your home. It's just on all the time. My remote office here, I work from home. Sound Oasis machine is amazing. Dr. Tracy I have 2 sleep bands, one with earbuds, which is way too loud now. But that's okay. It's too intense. And then one, just the band that I think is on the picture. I have those at night. So I did end up getting those. I also had the sleep pillow with the speakers. So once again, I go a little overboard, but I didn't sit in silence. And I would watch a lot of success stories if I was getting down. And then Dr. Ramsey one time had said, I was in a conference and I had to get out and leave the room. And she had said on a call that to listen to a thunderstorm for a little bit something just to like, kind of shake it up. But I choose, like, people would say, oh, I listen to ocean sounds. Well, I don't like the ocean. I live in Minnesota. I just don't like listening to the ocean. So I had to customize it for me. So I do crickets at night, and during the day I listen to forest noises or birds, because that's what I would hear naturally outside once I got through like the really intense phase. And so it's a really dynamic process of changing, and you guys helped me through that. But the consistent was I didn't sit in silence. If it ramped up, I tried not to panic, try to distract myself, turn on a new sound or do something different. I'll admit I didn't always follow the protocol that the sound is less than the tinnitus, because maybe for like 10, 20 minutes, I would set it a little higher. And that worked for me. And then I would back it down because I just needed a relief in the moment to get my nervous system to calm down. Probably not ideal, but I did change that a little bit. So
I think that that's totally okay to do
Okay.
too. Yes, you're fine. You got, yes, it worked. Yeah. There's sometimes where you just, you need to kind of reset and kind of shift what's going on in the nervous system and kind of help yourself regulate. And so if that's what it does, that's helpful by turning it up a little bit. That's okay. Right. We talked about that. That's not the general sound therapy implementation. And you knew that. And so it was like, you also knew, okay, I also need to kind of do this right now for a little bit to just kind of reset. The other thing, Ben, that we did a lot, I think Melinda did a lot, was we celebrated the wins. So whether they seemed small or big or anything in between, it's shifting the narrative, it's shifting the focus to like, wow, today I had, a half a day where I didn't even hear my tinnitus. Like that's huge, right? And so always constantly trying to point out those victories, those going on that first flight, that's huge. That's a huge win. And focusing on those things really helps to promote the entire habituation process. So yeah, I think you're still doing some of the like stress reduction and just kind of the neutral thinking and everything, even now, as well as you're doing. I think there's a lot of things that I have many patients at the end of this that say, I'm going to take a lot of these strategies and techniques and tools that I've learned and continue to apply them because it's helpful with my overall health and well-being. And so there's silver linings. I know that's harder to believe in the beginning of this process, but there are a lot of things that people take away at the end that it's like, wow, I can continue to do this and it's helpful in this way in my life, even though tinnitus isn't a factor for me anymore. So.
Melinda, let's talk more about advice. So some of the common situations patients feel stuck in may have been ones that you previously felt stuck in too. So share some of your top advice, maybe advice to your former self when you were in a more dire situation here.
Yeah, I just, like I said, again, it's staying away from any negativity, even be careful who you tell in your life. You be selective about that. And so it's almost like whatever you feed, if you're going to feed the dark or the light. Right. And so I tried to feed the positive with Treble all the time. And I would rewatch videos of success stories, which I mentioned. I had 5 days, I should mention, recently in Florida with in a row, almost unnoticeable tinnitus. If you would have told me that at the beginning, I said, there's no way. So I actually had to be careful not to back off too soon on the sound therapy. Customize to you. I had a note from Dr. Tracy on my computer of 10 things that would bring my nervous system down or calm me down. And it sounds funny, but I'd have to read the list out loud to myself. And I kept a journal. You're not really supposed to, but some people aren't supposed to. I kept a journal of just the wins. And I kept telling myself that this is the testimony to help others, so that there was an end game. Because if there's no end game, I could see how you could suffer. You really could suffer in this. So hopefully that's helpful. I don't use anything at night anymore. For the most part, maybe something very light, but I don't wear a sleep band or I don't wear maskers at night, if that's helpful. But there's days I cried, there's days it's really gritty, there's days I was frustrated, but just keep coming back. And I would text Dr. Tracy when I landed on my first flight and said, hey, I got here, the little wins, celebrate it. All of a sudden you'll go, whoa, it's 2 hours, I didn't hear it. It's shocking, right? But it happens. And look at the research, like, Dr. Ben interviewed Jesserboff one time. Dr. Jesserboff, that's a really good video because that's science. If you're a science person and you like black and white, you like stats, you like numbers, it's proven, right? Not proven. It's the evidence leads to a certain outcome. I'll put it that way. And just keep believing that, keep thinking it. So.
We have a question here from CW. CW asks, Melinda, what did you find was the most helpful sound therapy if you were to awaken in the middle of the night? And then also, what was the best sound therapy for you during the day? If you could talk about the type of sound as well as what technology you use to listen to it from.
Yep. So a lot of times at night, and when it was intense, I used crickets, which are natural to the environment here at night. So I really liked that. But I did use the maskers, just the normal sound that was piped in, streamed in from the app, because Bluetooth wouldn't mess with that. Phone calls wouldn't, you know what I mean? It was steady and consistent. So I did use that a lot in the beginning. You're finding the mixing point. And then I switched to more forest noises. But what is really cool is on some of the apps, you could put in like a pink noise and like a bird noise. You could mix them, because sometimes if you're just going to do like a bird noise or something that's inconsistent and there's no background, then you're hearing the tinnitus in between those noises, and it's really frustrating. So those are really cool. Those apps where you can mix them in and be creative, have fun with it if you can. You know what I mean? Like there's a million resources out there to find a noise that you like, and it customized, and you don't have to say, well, this gentleman liked white noise. If I did white noise, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have come out of this, because it drove me nuts. If that's helpful. So
yeah, very helpful. And how about dealing with stress on a daily basis? Were there any specific techniques other than listening to our success stories? And you're really passing on to future individuals here. After you listen to success stories, now you're sharing yours. I think that's great. Other than hearing positivity around tinnitus and outcomes, what kind of daily exercises were helpful for you?
Oh, I forgot to mention, I did the Dr. Ben's meditations, the 1 through 7, because it was nice to have it numbered. And when my mind was really scattered and panicky, I'm like, okay, it's number 1. We're doing number 1 today. We're doing number 2 today. And I just needed really simple thing. And so those are really, really good. Now I've kind of veered off on some other things that don't always say the word tinnitus, because I don't always want to think about it. So no offense, but I've kind of ventured off into some other things. But it was really helpful at first, because I just needed some type of consistency. So the meditation, but I will tell you, I didn't want to admit that it was tied to my stress level or nervous system, because I was a little stubborn. But if I get in traffic now or some type of situation, it ramps up. So I just have to like take a deep breath and talk to my higher power for a second and back it off. And I don't behave all the same ways I used to, because I don't want to go into that red zone and spike it up, or I should say fluctuate. I don't want the fluctuations anymore. And you learn pretty quickly. Mine's not diet related at all. I thought it was low iron. I thought it was caffeine. I tried all kinds of different things, and it didn't matter to me. I'm just making myself crazy trying to eat a restricted diet. Some people it is, but for me, it wasn't. Mine is nervous system related.
Mm-hmm. Mary asked about flying. You shared that you were able to fly. Are there any other normal everyday situations that you can do now that some months ago you thought would be impossible?
Yeah, I'm totally back. I had a hard time going to church services. I had a hard time going to anywhere loud, any restaurants, any I don't have hyperacusis, but it would kind of like tinny, like it would echo around. I don't have any of that anymore. The only time I hear it is like if I happen to go into a room where it's silent, I hear it then, or if I'm having like a stressful moment, I can hear it kind of ramping up. But I'm doing everything that like I said, I've had 5 or 6 trips. We're going to Greece for the summer. I'm not worried at all. It's an overnight flight, of course. The plane's fine. But bring your stuff, bring your earpiece. When I started, my purse was full of like stuff recommended by Treble Health. I had earpiece, I had my mask. I mean, I had all kinds of things just to be calm in my list. And like I said, the airplane's a non-issue. I can't think of anywhere I don't go now. I don't avoid doing anything.
Love to hear that. Dr. Tracy, any final words on your perspective of seeing Melinda go through this process and how it can help others going through tinnitus?
The last thing I was going to say is that towards the later stages, Melinda and I definitely talked about this, where, you know, when you start to feel better, it's really common to start to taper off and slack off of doing some of the things, like the consistent things that we know help with the stress levels, the anxiety levels, the sound itself. And so in the later stages, I feel like it's actually even more important to really double down on being consistent with those strategies, right? And it's like, oh, I know I've had a really stressful day and I can sense that my tinnitus or my tension is starting to kind of rise. It's about being really strategic, and it's about knowing and being aware of that, and then quickly implementing the strategies that work, right? And so we talked, I think that's a common thing that comes up too. It's like naturally, as we're feeling better with this over time, that there's a tendency, just like with, you know, if you're doing a diet, you want to lose weight, like you lose that first, 10 pounds, you're like, all right, I'm doing awesome. And then you like slowly start to eat the things again, or, exercise. So in the later stages, I think just keeping in mind that it's just as important to kind of be consistent with all of the things, right? This comprehensive approach that we're talking about. It's putting together and doing those things consistently and daily. And even once you're at stage 4, to recognize when you're feeling stressed or if you're not getting great sleep, and to really sort of like immediately, right, put into place some of those things that we know help. And the beautiful thing is that you have all the tools you need, and you know exactly what to do, and you're in control of the situation now. And that's a big piece of it. So just know Melinda is like a joy to work with. So I'm so happy that she's where she's at.
Yeah, you too. And I we're short on time, I'm sure, but I told Dr. Ben that when I graduated, I quote unquote graduated last week, I cried. And this is real. This is real work. But we're going to talk again, stay in touch. And you mentioned something I didn't say earlier. I had to give myself permission not to sit and focus on it. That was not, just do something right away, take action right away with the maskers or change the noise. That's huge. That was huge for me. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Tracy. Melinda, we'll give you the final word. Any last encouragement or advice here for those of us at the Tinnitus Triumph Summit?
no, just thank you, and trust what Treble's doing. Trust the research. Let yourself trust the process.
Well, you're getting a lot of hearts here, and some nice emojis coming in here live on Zoom. So thank you both, and we'll talk to you both really soon. The next part of the summit here is for me to share my screen. Just want to summarize where we've come so far and where we're going. And thank you again to Melinda. A ton of positive feedback here. Okay, so far we've had some amazing guests. I'll say this again. We just listened today and yesterday to so far 6 success stories, 6 graduates who've come through and worked with us and wanted to share their story. So they're really giving back to the community after they found us online, and we're inspired that there was hope for tinnitus, and eventually they got better and are feeling better. And that's exactly why we do what we do at Treble Health. So today we had these 3 sessions which touch on important points: tinnitus, hearing loss, hyperacusis, navigating stress. Now, I'd like to share some details about the gold standard tinnitus treatment and how to get started. So as you all know, this event is hosted by Treble Health, and we're an independently owned telehealth clinic that provides treatment, provides help for individuals with tinnitus and hyperacusis. The first really incorrect, false belief that many individuals have is that there's nothing you can do for tinnitus. And hopefully during this presentation so far, you've either shifted that perspective or you've completely learned what individuals are actually doing. So now I'm going to walk you through the top tips for the gold standard treatment for tinnitus. And yes, it is based off of tinnitus retraining therapy, which is shown here on the screen. Some of you were here yesterday, and you may recall this research study that compared tinnitus retraining therapy and measured the treatment effect over time. We can see here that tinnitus retraining therapy and sound therapy are both effective after they were evaluated independently by scientific researchers. So tinnitus retraining therapy, it means using tinnitus maskers on the ears consistently for a period of months, often up until 12 or even 18 months, and then over the course of that window, having one-on-one appointments with an expert audiologist to get us out of any negative cycles of tinnitus, reducing the psychological impact. And this research found that by 12 and 18 months of treatment, tinnitus retraining therapy was much more effective than just sound therapy alone, but they both worked. And that's what our program here at Treble Health is based off of. So I'm going to explain a bit about that. On the left here, expert care with your audiologist. On the right, sound therapy via tinnitus maskers. If there was any common theme from all of the presentations, from all of the guests, all the speakers at the summit here, it was that they use both of these methods, right? And that's in line with what the research would suggest provides the maximum benefit. For those who don't know, tinnitus maskers are these devices here. They can be used for tinnitus as well as hyperacusis. They sit up and behind the ear with a thin wire going alongside the skin and then this rubber tip going inside the ear canal. These are lightweight and you can see they're very discreet. They have this rubber tip that has this high fidelity speaker playing this sound therapy inside of the ear canal. So individuals who've worked with us, who you learned about tonight, they listen to the sound therapy through these devices, a pair of them, and they use that consistently. White noise, pink noise, natural water sounds, crickets, etc. And the best technology to use was the tinnitus maskers, followed by a sound machine and then different smartphone apps. Here's a sleep headband, which also is beneficial. Remember that the goal here is to reduce and improve tinnitus through a process called habituation. So getting to stage 4 is the goal. And this is where tinnitus is rarely noticed. It no longer elicits automatic negative feelings or thoughts. It's really not in our awareness for a vast majority of the day. That's the goal here. And using sound therapy following tinnitus retraining therapy can bring us towards that goal. So now shifting into what we offer at Treble Health, as you may have learned earlier, we have the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. This summit is sponsored and hosted by Treble Health. Inside of this bundle, we have a special offer, really a discounted offer for individuals who wanted to work with us. And as a celebration of what we're doing here, we're able to offer that to you all. This is research-based tinnitus retraining therapy, independently validated. Our own internal research as well shows that there is a clinically significant reduction in tinnitus for over 2/3 of patients, even within the first few months, within the first 3 months. Well, what we know is that this treatment effect compounds and increases over time. And it's great to see this research being validated with our own patients. I want to review what's covered in the bundle in detail, as you may not have heard that yet. First is the pair of the Treble tinnitus maskers. And then we have 6 bonuses, including the sleep headband, the sound machine, 5 one-on-one visits with an audiologist that we'll pair you with on our team, 6 group coaching sessions, priority email and text with your audiologist, and the audio tracks for the guided breathing and relaxation course. As part of the summit here, we have a special offer, a special discount promotion where we're able to offer this for $212 a month over a 13-month period. Those are 0% interest, low monthly payments, and there is a 45-day risk-free trial. To get started and learn more, head over to treblehealth.com/offer. That's where you'll see a webpage with the details of what we're covering here. And then we'll also drop that in the chat. So if you want to get started and work with us, the only thing that's required is a $212 payment. And then after that, you would speak with our team and we would get you onboarded to our program. You would start the 45-day risk-free trial. First step would be reserving this at treblehealth.com/offer. The next step, talking to a member of our team to confirm the details. And then we would ship the devices to your house that would arrive within a week. Now we wanted to have a period of question and answer where you can ask me and any audiologist on our team either about the Tinnitus Relief Bundle or about your tinnitus, what's going on with your health. So with this in mind, just a reminder that the Tinnitus Summit here is hosted, sponsored by Treble Health. For those of you who wanted to work with us, the best way to do it, either for tinnitus or hyperacusis, would be going to treblehealth.com/offer. We will drop that in the chat as well. And I personally will be here for the next 20 minutes to answer any of your questions about the bundle, about the risk-free trial, about your tinnitus, what's going on, how we can help. We also have Dr. Garrett Thompson, my brother, here in the chat. He's an audiologist as well. So let's get started. Let's start answering some questions. What do we have, Garrett? Let's see here. All right. So first question here is, do we accept an FSA or a health savings account? Yes, we do. We do accept a health savings account, and we provide a detailed receipt and invoice to either health savings or to insurance. So if your insurance had a partial benefit for tinnitus treatment, which is often billed under hearing aids, because the tinnitus maskers can also function as hearing aids. If we decide to turn on the hearing aid setting, then there can be some extra benefit for your tinnitus. So we would provide any super bill, any diagnosis code, all the paperwork that any insurance company would need. If they had an insurance benefit for an out-of-network provider, then we'd be able to provide that paperwork and you could get reimbursement from them. If you guys have specific questions for me, I'll ask that you go to the Q&A section here on Zoom. It's called question and answer Q&A, and that's where I'll be able to easily find your specific question.
Ben, did you see the question from Janet?
No, can you please ask it? Hello, Garrett.
Hello. Will you have to wear the maskers for the rest of your life?
That's a great question, and my apologies for not answering it earlier. The answer is no. The goal here is to get to stage 4 of tinnitus relief. Once you're there, you don't need to use sound therapy anymore. The tinnitus maskers are the most sustainable and gold standard way to use sound therapy. So really, when we say tinnitus maskers, we mean using sound therapy during this protocol to retrain your brain to reduce the tinnitus, right? When you've reached the goal where you're hardly aware of tinnitus, it's often during this process, it gets softer. When you reach the goal, then you don't need to use the tinnitus maskers anymore for your tinnitus. Neither do you have to use sound therapy. What other questions do you guys have? Let us know. And I'd also like for you to... Okay, great. So Steve, thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the summit. Steve asks, I see you have this special offer. How does this offer compare to other packages you might offer? This is a great question. And Garrett, if you'd like to chime in on this as well, you're welcome to just voice on. That would be great. So yeah, how does this particular offer compare to other packages? So this is the core package that we offer. This is what 85% of patients who work with us get. Sometimes patients they don't want the sleep headband. They don't want the sound machine. We're able to offer a slight discount off of the bundle price for individuals who request a more simplified version. So if that was something you're interested in, then you can sign up at the link treblehealth.com/offer, paying the $212. It's not locking you into that specific monthly payment, over the 13 months. But it's a deposit that gets you in our system. And then we can speak with you and personalize a plan based on what you need after the fact. Or Steve, if you have follow-up questions, then I'm able to answer them here for you. But essentially at Treble Health, we offer expert care and we offer the tinnitus maskers. And then we also have these complementary pieces that we put in the bundle. So if you already had tinnitus maskers, or if you already had good hearing aids that were programmed for tinnitus, then we could offer just audiology expert care appointments. If you just wanted the tinnitus maskers, then we could offer just the tinnitus maskers. But what we know is that for people who don't already have devices on the ears, offering all this together gives you what you really need, and we can personalize it from there. So thanks for your question, Steve.
And I think you might also just be asking about the price. So it's, it's the lowest price we've had in over a month, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Yeah. So the bundle itself, what we're currently offering here, it's about 10% discounted from what we normally offer during these kinds of events. So it is a special price, a special offer, and in that sense, lower than what you would normally find. So we're offering this until we're offering this tonight, and we'd love for you to start with us tonight. All right, we have some more questions. Yes, so Steve had a follow-up. Yes, Steve, a la carte is possible, and you can either sign up and we will be able to customize it for you, or if you wanted to speak with someone on our team before you did that, if you go to treblehealth.com/offer, there is a button to schedule a free consultation where you can have a conversation with a team member who can personalize that before you proceed. That's up to you. Thank you. All right, we got some good questions here, Garrett. So plenty to talk about. All right, first one, we'll go lightning round on these because I want you guys to really ask questions that you're here for. All right, so Dave asks, can you speak more on CBT? Yeah, so CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. It means changing the mind's reactions and changing certain behaviors to have a therapeutic and beneficial effect of certain health conditions. So in this sense, for tinnitus, we know that if we change certain thought patterns or mental reactions, and we change certain behaviors, that can lead to improved symptoms. CBT is often performed by a psychologist, a therapist, and specifically CBT for tinnitus. Those techniques can be used by a well-trained audiologist like those on our team. Sandra made a comment that this bundle was $2,500 less than a local audiologist who just offered hearing aids. So that is another point here for those who are considering working with us. We are about 40% less than a local in-person clinic, and I would argue that we have about 3 times the training and the specialty care as the average audiologist regarding your tinnitus. Okay. We have a question here about waiting for an ENT appointment. So it's very common these days that ENT clinics are very busy, but if you have tinnitus, it's not something that we want to wait on, right? So really what the ENT visit is for is you get a hearing test and you get a physical inspection, and that the clinic will tell you this is something that is treatable through therapy and treatment, like what we're talking about today, or it's something that a surgery or a medication could help with. Now, less than 1% of cases with tinnitus are surgical or medication treatments. A vast majority of them are using the program we're talking about, tinnitus retraining therapy. So it's okay to keep your ENT appointment. If you wanted to expedite things, I would recommend talking to us or someone who specializes in tinnitus. There also are often ways to get a local hearing test that are faster, not at a medical ENT clinic, but different local centers that we often guide our patients to get. So often within a week, you can get a local hearing test. You can review it with our team, either before you start with us or once you're in the process. And then we give you specific guidance. And we use that hearing test to program the tinnitus maskers. Like I said earlier, if you had a hearing result that showed some hearing loss, then we can change certain settings on the tinnitus maskers so that they function as high quality hearing aids. And that leads to better outcomes for many patients. All right, so I just want to check in here that, remember, we're talking about the tinnitus relief bundle. There is a 45-day risk-free trial. You would get to work with Treble Health. We would love to help you. If you go to treblehealth.com/offer, then you'll go to the specific page where you can sign up and you can make the $212 payment, which will enter you into our system. From there, you'll schedule a time to speak with our team. We'll gather all of your information, and then you'll start, and once you receive the tinnitus maskers and the devices at your home, then it would start the 45-day risk-free trial. During that time, you would have numerous appointments with an audiologist on our team. And by the end of it, if you wanted to, or for any reason you needed to, get a refund, it would be 100% refund. And for those who want to speak one-on-one with an expert on our team for various reasons before continuing, then there is an option on the webpage, treblehealth.com/offer. There is an option there to schedule a free consultation that we can review things before proceeding. All right, lots of questions coming in. Shout out to Dr. Garrett here, who's hustling in the chat, and I'm going to just review the questions here to try to answer the ones that I think are most relevant here. Fred asks, why are most ENTs and audiologists so ignorant of the techniques you use for tinnitus? Doesn't the training they receive address these techniques? ENT doctors, I would say no, it often doesn't. They're focused on surgical treatments and medications. So they often just defer to their audiology team for things like hearing loss, hearing aids, tinnitus, and often, and just to address what you said, many doctors are undereducated on tinnitus retraining therapy. A few doctors will mention it, and those are our friends for sure. All right, so Janet asks, do you have to have the hearing test before you start the program? The answer is no. If you start the program, essentially sign up. By start the program, I mean, if you sign up with us, then we will ask you, have you ever had a hearing test? And if that answer is no, then we will contact a local clinic on your behalf and help you get a local hearing test, often within a week. And then during that time, we're sending the devices to your house so that by the time the devices are fit in your ears, you also have this hearing test that you give us the results to, right? We have the results from your hearing test, and that's what we use to program the devices. All right, guys, so we'll be here for another 7 minutes or so, and this offer is live. Go over to treblehealth.com/offer to get started with us. Roger, can you sleep with the maskers in? Yes, you can, although 90% of patients don't, but you could if you wanted to. Mickey asks, do you bill insurance? We can provide the paperwork and the details of what we do at Treble Health, the procedure codes, et cetera. And then you're able to submit that to your insurance. If they cover tinnitus treatment or hearing aids, then they can reimburse you if that's part of your out-of-network benefits. And then Carlos asks, why do I have this slight vibration in the head? Carlos, it may be tensor tympani syndrome. So it's not a permanent thing. It often is following the trajectory of your tinnitus or hyperacusis. So treating those conditions will often treat that associated condition. But without knowing the full details of your history, I'd like for you to talk to someone on our team so we can really, properly address what's going on here, reviewing the details. That's best. Safe RN says that I'm a surgeon and I've been using different high power tools for over 25 years. I developed tinnitus six weeks ago. Is this cervical tinnitus? The three most common causes of tinnitus in order of prevalence are age-related hearing loss, stress-induced tinnitus, central nervous system stress-induced tinnitus. That's number 2. And then number 3 would be somatic or somatosensory tinnitus related to cervical issues, jaw, TMJ, temporal mandibular joint. So Safe RN, I would look at those options and we can help guide you through the differential diagnosis there based on different options of treatments that are available So that's often part of what we do is we understand, okay, what's the true cause or multifactorial cause here, and then provide different treatments options from there. Thank you. All right, guys, just about 5 minutes here live together. And if you haven't already, head over to our website, treblehealth.com/offer, where you can get started with our program. We'd love to help you. We have some questions here that are being answered by Dr. Tracy as well as Dr. Garrett in the chat. Elliot, Hamid, you guys are taken care of there. Carlos, great to see you in the chat. Carlos shared that he just started working with us and received his bundle during this event, which is pretty cool. All right, so Alicia, you asked this question. I'm glad we can address this. You asked, is it normal to get noise sensitivity after using the maskers for 45 days? I would say that your noise sensitivity is not from using the maskers. Using sound therapy in your treatment does not create hyperacusis. So hopefully that answers your question. But so causation does not equal correlation. Correlation does not equal causation. So it may be a correlation there, but we'd like to go into the details here to learn of what could be the cause of that and what can we do about it. But I'm not too worried in the sense that I wouldn't want you to stop using the sound therapy. All right, so Chandra asks, I had an audiology test and it was normal. Do you need that to program the devices, or how does that work again? Great question. So the audiology test gives you a result that says either your hearing is normal, there's some hearing loss, or significant hearing loss. And if your hearing test was normal, that means that we would program the tinnitus maskers with sound therapy, but we wouldn't need to turn on any hearing aid feature. There's no extra benefit from giving you extra hearing of sounds around you. So we'll just use them as tinnitus maskers. So Chandra, I believe your name is correct. Yeah, no, Chonda, excuse me. Chonda, all we would do is need a copy of that, just a picture to verify that the hearing test is in fact normal from our independent analysis. And then from there, we would be able to work with you and adjust the devices. So you wouldn't need an extra hearing test as long as the one that you send us is accurate and reliable. Thank you. All right, so just a quick update here. We have some people who are interested in working with us. So if that's you, then I would go ahead and get started. Now is a great time for that. Treblehealth.com/offer. There's a link here in the chat. Once you go to that link, I'm going to click it here just to show you guys. Once you go to that link, if you're watching on the screen right now, then you'll see a page here that covers what's included in the bundle, just a review of everything. And if you click this link right here, then you'll be able to start and sign up with your information. So that's how it works from the user side, from your side of things. Once you complete this information here, then you would then be asked to schedule your welcome call with a member of our team. And that's when we review your history and cover everything that we need to then be able to send the devices out to your house. At that time, when we do the welcome call, we also review the billing information. We review the options there for the payment, as well as confirming that you are signing up for exactly what you want. And we'll confirm that it's what's going to help you. I have an extra 5 minutes. So because you guys have been really pleasant, I'm going to extend here for another 5 minutes. And we'll also keep this offer live for you guys. So let me put on the timer here for another 5 minutes or so. And if you guys have last questions that come through, please do ask. I'm here to help and here to serve you guys. And I want to give a big shout out to everyone who made this summit possible. There's a lot of people behind the scenes who work really hard to help you and help the tinnitus community here be inspired about hope, about success stories, about science, about research, about tinnitus treatment. It's a beautiful thing to do what we do. And we all love our jobs because of stories like we featured tonight, where people literally changed their life. And the funniest moment to me of the summit was when my former patient Loretta said that the same woman who said that she was triggered by the sounds of her air conditioner because it was too loud and that was causing this intense reaction of sound sensitivity, is now riding motorcycles with earplugs and being around loud noises. To me, that was just a sign at how far the brain can come and how tinnitus, hyperacusis, they are neurological conditions. So they're not set in stone. It's not something that's broken. There's nothing broken in your system. This neurological tinnitus and or hyperacusis can shift and get better over time. And I'm always inspired more and more about the power of the brain. Carol, thanks for your comment. Thanks for being here. Let us know how we can help. You know how to reach us. Chonda and Janet are asking, how long will this offer last? The offer will last through Monday. So there's no immediate need to sign up, but I would encourage you to get this process started as early as possible. And we're coming up on the weekend here. So if you want to get things started, get the ball rolling, I'd recommend signing up today or early tomorrow morning so that we can get these devices on their way to you and shipped to you, and that you can receive them and start the 45-day risk-free trial as soon as possible. Thanks, Tim. David, not sure what your question is referring to. Maybe that was following up with Garrett or Tracy. Fred asks, does your program work for tinnitus that involves a different tone in each ear? It definitely does. That's a great question. So if you're hearing different sounds, even if your tinnitus is different volumes in each ear, this program will work. That's not something that is a deterrent or an exclusionary factor. The reason that we have the welcome call, the bundle welcome call, is because we want to review parts of your history that may be unique or maybe you have questions on, and that's the right time to bring things up like this, of say, hey, I want to work with you, but just before we fully go in on this, I have, for example, my right ear has crickets and my left ear has a tone. Will this still work for me? And we can, as I said, the answer to that question is yes. But for anyone who has specific questions, that's where you can go to. All right. Well, we have just 2 minutes left here, and then we're going to close the Zoom. So big thank you to everyone. If you haven't already, make sure you head over to treblehealth.com/offer. We've really enjoyed hosting and sponsoring the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit. There's been a lot of hope, a lot of positivity, a lot of inspiration that we've learned. And let me know in the chat who here listened to all 6 presentations. I want to give you a special shout out if you listen to all 6 of the talks in the summit. All right, we have Linda. Big shout out to Linda. Linda spent 2 hours here. Was it 2 hours? No, 3 hours. Linda, Tim, Fred, Harold, Chonda had 5. We'll count it. So big shout out to you. I'm sure there's others. Big shout out to all of you who just, wow. I'm amazed, right? You have a big advantage to so many people who are dealing with tinnitus because you have this superpower of knowing it's possible to get better. Different people, different situations, different struggles, different circumstances, but they all showed that they're resilient with our help. So, all right, guys, let's end here with some heart emojis, which we've all loved here as we figured out that Zoom can do these heart emojis. That's definitely been one of my subtle favorite moments of the summit. All right, everyone. This is Ben Thompson here signing off with Treble Health. Look out for some emails coming up for us. And for those of you who are interested in our bundle, you know how to find us. All right, guys. Thanks so much and have a good night. Bye-bye.